Our wonderful panelists here to join me: Otis Sanford, ABC24 political analyst, former Memphis City Councilwoman, and former school board member Tawan Stout-Mitchell, and a new face to the show, Cardell Oren, the executive director of, one more time, of Tennessee. Stanford Children, Tennessee. Sorry, I skipped past it a little too much. All right, so let's get right to it. First off, with all of the debacle with MSCS and the state intervention. I'm careful not to say takeover because that was controversial there. But yes, so the legislative session, the two different versions couldn't get decided on between the House and the Senate. So now it is stalled, and it would have a 9-member oversight committee, if we could get those bullet points up when we can. But 9-member oversight committee made up of Shelby County residents. The House version really gave the governor and the House and Senate speakers the control over who to appoint, whereas the Senate bill would have given state lawmakers, and then the county and city mayor would have been able to appoint one committee member each. They weren't able to get down to one version, but White and Taylor hope to merge the bills after this forensic audit that is scheduled for the district this summer. So I want to start with you, Tawan. As a former school board member, just what do you think about the outcome? And now, what do they have to do in this year to keep this from happening?
Well, first, the outcome. One was a takeover. White's bill was a takeover. Taylor's bill was more of an intervention. And then White tried to merge some of his points into Brent's bill, because I don't think the Senate was ready for a takeover after the failure of the Achievement School District. Mm-hmm. It did not achieve what they expected, and they didn't want that that big mistake in their laps again. So they looked for an intervention. Mm-hmm. However, what really struck me was the duties they were giving the administrative board had everything to do with contracts, finance, and buildings, and nothing to do with academic achievement, teacher ratio, resources for classrooms, nothing. But everything had to do with contracts. So it really speaks to me that this is an effort to go after resources more so than it is an effort to shore up performance, which we need to show up. But if we need that, the best person that in the world to do that is Dr. Richmond, who was over our zone schools and made sure we saw gains there better than we saw with ASD. So I just think they have some work to do in trying to take that Council of Great City School report and then issue by issue, tackle that and make a charge and a mission for the future. And then the superintendent needs to also work with his finance team to comb through the budget and the finances. I would make sure they wouldn't find anything before I found it. I would find it first.
I did want to ask Cardell, what do you think about the forensic audit and how much that's going to play a key into how they move next legislative session?
I think, we've seen over many years the idea of the state coming in to try to take over or have some oversight of the district. So, whether it was the superintendent situation with the board, whether it becomes this audit, a lot of it is pretext and pretense in terms of, well, what do we need to find to do the things that we want to do? And so I think with this audit, it will come in, it will probably find some things. You can't really, it's hard to have $1 billion+ budget and not find something.
That's right.
The challenge is that they aren't doing this with any other school district. So we have no ability to compare or contrast what they find at Memphis-Shelby County Schools with what other school districts may have that may be more systemic issues that the state actually should take an interest in, rather than just coming to Memphis-Shelby County Schools. And in doing that, when they find one or two things, it'll become just an isolated, sensationalized assessment rather than a fair evaluation. And so I agree with Tawan that, you know, if there's things that the district can find, they've had clean bills of health from the audits, from the regular audits for all of these years. But if there's things that they know about or the things that they can find, they need to share it, be transparent. I think that's where the interim superintendent and the board are getting to, is how can we be more transparent? How can we be more engaging, recognizing that we came past a kind of singular event?
The House bill had far more state control. The Senate bill had far less state control and was giving some of the power back to local government. So, Tawan, you were spot on that. And Brent Taylor did tell me that the reason the Senate did not want to take it all to the state was because they were snake bitten by the Achievement School District, and they didn't want to be blamed if things went wrong. Now, the one thing that was interesting, though, and I asked them, is there anything that the state, that the school board or the school system can do to forestall any of this by the time you come back in January of 2026? And they seem to say no, because they didn't think that the school board had the experience or the expertise, and that's their words, to make the kind of changes that needed to be made. Again, this is my reporter hat here. And so that's what they were saying here. They expect when the audit comes back, they will come back in January, and whatever the audit tells them, they will be able to merge those bills. They are still intending to try to assume some kind of what they call a takeover or intervention. They're going to try to do it.
So with that, and Tawan, I always want to go to you because you used to be on that board, you know, you used to sit there. So what do you do in the meantime? Like, as a current board member, what would you advise now?
I would advise them to stay focused and do their work and be professional about it.
Yeah.
Be professional about it and treat all of their constituency with decency and kindness, but do their work. It's a lot of work to be done, a lot of midnight oil to be burned, but they need to comb over their own budgets, find their own problems, have solutions to those, announce them to the public. They need to make sure they have a mission statement and goals and objectives for the next 4 or 5 years. They need to be working on that. They need to be actively involved in planning education for 100,000 children.
Mm-hmm.
And as an advocate for children, you want to add to that?
I think, too, I want to touch on what Representative Parkinson spoke about, and what doesn't get talked about a lot is in these bills, the broad expansion of vouchers under especially Taylor's bill that took away the income limits. So you wanted to focus on a district that has majority economically disadvantaged students, and then take away the income caps on families being able to take advantage of vouchers, and then on top of it, allow charter schools, the conversion of any school. So they could pick, I would say, they could take White Station and give it to, what's that school, Hillsborough? Hills, you know which one I'm talking about.
One in Michigan.
Yeah, the conservative, private school, charter school. So you could take any school and you could give it to a school to be a charter. So there's no guardrails in there. So it's a pretty big expansion of what they would say is choice, but without any guardrails, without any focus. And then the other part is, I would agree with what Tawan said, that the school board has to be focused. I was glad to see just at the school board meeting this week where they brought up a resolution around bringing a facilities plan. So charging the interim superintendent to bring back a facilities plan by September, involving in that full engagement with the community, and really being focused on what is the plan that we have, what do we need to do, and how do we come together as a community to try to focus on moving that forward.